Hello everyone, and welcome to the second part in which we will be making a Jetdragon from Palworld. Now let us first refine his head a bit more. As you can see, there is still work to be done. This reference right here is pretty nice, okay. Now I'm going to use some elastic deform brush to shape it a bit like this. You can also smooth this upper part here. And of course, please feel free to share, like, and subscribe. It does help me and I do appreciate it. And also, okay, let me just unhide this. And also, leave a kind comment. I love reading those, by the way. Okay. This toy is actually pretty cute. I'm going to use this for a reference. Okay. Now I'm just going to use the mask tool and mask the inner part of the upper mouth. Upper part of the inner mouth, yes, that's what I said. And we are going to use the move tool to indent it. So first I need to mask this. Then I will invert the mask with Ctrl I. Go down here and find the move tool. Then I'm going to just use the arrow like this. And I'm going to move it upwards. It's much easier than just to dig with a inflate or with the draw brush. Now I can also clear the mask. And then I'm also going to make his tongue like this. So once again, I'm going to mask this area. But this time I'm going to use the inflate option here. I'm just going to drag my mouse so you can see it automatically inflates it outwards. Now I can also inflate some other parts, like this one, to make it more even. As you can see here, we will change the angle. So I'm going to use the smooth brush to smooth this here. And also I need to add some more mass here so it's not flat. So within the inflate brush, I'm just adding a bit of mass. Now I'm just going to indent the part here. But first I also need to add a part here, so I'm just going to change its direction like this and also fill this part in. And you can see that does a lot for us. Let me just smooth it a bit. Now I will indent this part here. And you can see we have the same kind of angle, just a bit different. And now we need to add some more geometry, so I'm going to rematch on a lower resolution. And now we can just even smooth some other parts like this. Okay, let me just symmetrize. As you can see, the mouth wasn't symmetrized. And this part is still kind of blocking out, just a bit on a higher level. So now we're just, as you can see, indenting some parts, highlighting the other parts. And that way we are getting the sort of a mechanical shape, which we can see on the Jetdragon. It's like the perfect combination of mechanical and organic. Now let me also crease this part here. And then I'll use the invert crease to further refine the line. Now I can also tweak the mouth part a bit more. Even though it's not going to be visible, I like having it smoothed out. And now for the tongue, I'm going to use the crease brush to separate the inner mouth part from the tongue. Also, I can use the crease brush once again to make like a middle line. And now I will just smooth it. So looking at from this side, I want it to be barely noticeable, but we still want to have it there. Okay, now let me also move it a bit. Also smooth it a bit more. You can see now it looks very nice. Let me also crease the part as you can see here. I'm going to use the constant fall off. So we get the result something like this. So we actually have the plane change, what we want, and we made the part a bit flatter. Now I'm just trying to get the angle like this. As it is on the reference, as you can see here. Okay, let me also make sure I tweak this. So I can use the sculpt draw brush on the reverse setting and make sure this is indented. And of course later we must make sure we rotate the head. This time sculpting it on a straight position. As you can see when he's flying it is like angled. We also make sure this is going the correct way. Much better. Okay, I need to fill the part here. Okay, now I'm just going to move the jet wings a bit to the side. And also I will add a subdivision modifier. And also add some more loop cuts to refine the shape. I can add about 3 here. And 1, 2 here. Okay, in X-ray mode, I will just make sure I select both of those. And then I'm going to snap it on his head. As you can see now, I'm creating the angle. I'm not sure we need that loop cut here. Okay, I will just leave it for now. Let me look at the reference. As you can see here, this is the angle, and it sort of encompasses the eye. We actually, we do not need this, okay? What we can do is actually bring this outwards. And here we have it. Back to X-ray mode. Let's make sure extend this a bit, without snapping of course. And I can even line it up like this. Now I need to line up the rest of it. this part here also. I can move it a bit back. I'll move it backwards. Okay, looking at the toy reference. Let me just select this loop cut. Make sure extend it a bit more outwards. Then I will select this one. Make sure everything is selected. I think I've actually dissolved this one. Let me just line this one up a bit more. Okay. Now I need to push this one a bit backwards. Looking at the side, looks nice. But what I will do is actually select the head and make it a bit more narrow. So I'm going to scale it down on the x-axis like this. Let me also add a loop here. And we need to make the angle once again. Just looking at it from all the sides. Making sure it is lined up. I can even pull this a bit outwards. And also add a few loop cuts, just so it does not look stretched. You can see now it has enough geometry to look smooth all around. Okay, I also need to make sure this is lined up. So I'll actually bring it to this side. But let me also select this part here. You can also bring this here. And now what I'm going to do is use the loop tools, the circle option. That way I can make the neck a bit more smooth. And if you don't know about the loop tools, you should definitely check out one of my videos. For example, in the video which I explain how to make topology a bit smoother. It is actually a pretty handy tool when it comes to retopology and fixing already existing topology. Now I'm just lining those up. Okay, I can delay those. And what I'm going to do is bring it a bit like this. Now I'm just going to move the head a bit, like this. And what I'm trying to do is make a smoother connection between the neck and the head, so that when we actually merge them together, it's going to be a bit easier to smooth out. Like this. And this will actually make sure that we do not have as much bumps as we can. So like I want to make this like this. Make sure it also like connects or intersects each other. Okay, now I'm just smoothing some parts here. Back to object mode. I can tweak this a bit more. Extend it like this. Now I will also bring this a bit more upwards. As you can see here, it is also a nice curve. I want to make sure we follow it. Also, I'm smoothing this a bit more. This part here, we do not want any unnecessary bumps. And of course, this is still just main shaping the head. Later on, we will add the details and make sure it looks flawless. And I will actually do that when we add the eyes. But first, what I'm going to do now is like the leg. We are going to use this part of the leg. I'm going to duplicate it, move it a bit further, and then separate it. And this is going to act as the hand of the Jetdragon. So the little jet thingies with the claws, I can make sure I just inflate it a bit, so I can just scale it on the local axis. Normal. Like this. And I can also rotate it. Back to global. Now I can move it. But let me also find a reference. For example, this one in the front view, we can see how it looks like. Yes, I will use this one. Okay, let me also add a cube. And from this cube, I'm actually going to put it on the other side, so I do not mess with the selection between this arm and this part here. And this will act as the arm, as I said. So first I'm just going to make like a blocky shape. Then I will add few loop cuts. Then I will select it, let me just move it here and do the trick. So first I'm going to select all the edges. Make sure I dislike these vertices. And then I'm going to scale it to get a more round shape. Also scale this part a bit down. Okay, I also want to smooth vertices. And of course, this is once again just blocking out. Let me also first make sure it is positioned correctly. Okay. I'm going to use the normal to scale it up a bit. And what I can also do, I want to make a back a bit smaller, so like this. And now I want to select the part here. Okay. Yes, now I'm noticing that we actually need a shoulder. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to add another cube. So just let me first make sure this is going to make it a bit bigger. Before we make a shoulder, I want to just line this up a bit more. I can extend this a bit further. And then I can just angle it outwards. Let me also position this. Now I'm just reshaping the hands. And I know I'm jumping from one thing to another, but I just want to make sure this is done before I move on to the next part. Okay. Now I just need to move this. Okay, let me find this reference. Oh, this needs to be a bit more narrow. Okay, let me add a look at here. Make this wider. I want to also select this. And then I'm just going to also scale it down. Okay, let me also make sure this goes downwards. We also do not need this part here. I'm just going to delete it. Delete also this part. And then let me actually extrude it inwards. And then I'm just going to do it once again. And press F to fill it in. Since this smallest part will not be visible. I want to also bring this a bit backwards so we have a nice fall off. Then I'm just going to go to the loop tools. Select this inner part here. And now I'm going to use the flatten option. Also this. I'm going to use the flatten option to make it a bit more flat. Let me also use the proportional editing. Like this. I can do it from this view. And now it looks so much better. Now let me add the shoulders so I do not forget. So at first what I'm going to do is make it like a small sphere. And we'll refine it a bit in the sculpt mode. But of course for now it will remain as a separate object. I want to bring it outwards a bit. As you can see here. And if you're asking what my method of sculpting is and making characters, it is to basically do this so I do not forget it later. So if I just skip to another step or just go back to something, it's because I want to do it so I do not forget. Okay. Now I'm just going to use this claw here. I can even do it from the cube. So I will add a cube. I will move it a bit downwards, bring it forwards. And you know what? I will go into the isolation mode. Let me make the claw here, so as you can see, let me add a subdivision surface. I will increase the subdivision. 1 loop cut, 2, make it bigger. Then I can just move this. So backwards. Then I'll move this sideways. Also move it sideways. That way we already have this sideways shape. Okay, move this. Okay, move this. Add another loop cut here. And now I'll just scale it a bit on the x-axis. I will also scale it down a bit here. And here we have a claw. Let me also add a bit more loop cuts. One here, one here. Then once again I can do the magic trick. Ta-da! It's circular. Okay. Also need to fix some geometry here. Okay. It got a bit messy, but we can fix that with smooth vertices. It looks so much better now. Hit this. I can just press S and Y to flatten it out. Okay, let me now position the first claw. Duplicate another one. Okay, let me rotate it. And you say Blender is not magic. We can simply press few buttons and now we have 2 claws. You can have millions of them, but I do not know why you will need as many. You just tell me. There could never be too many claws. Okay, let me scale this down. Like this. And now I want to make them proportional to the arm. Now I'm trying to get the angle right. Now what I'm actually going to do is bring this a bit downwards. Just looking at the whole dragon, making sure everything is lined up. Okay, we also need to do this. I'm going to join those two. Now you can see they are mirrored on both sides. I also need to tweak the shape here. me also line up the arm a bit more. So what I can do is actually move it here. So even though we're not going to physically connect the arm to the jet things, we still want it to intersect and make it look like it is a whole part. Okay, let me also fix those. I can use the circle option on the tail as well. I can rotate it a bit. Now I can also tweak this. When you use the circle option, some parts might get a bit distorted, so you can feel free to actually manually pull them downwards. Let me also bring this upwards. As you can see, we made him a bit too round. We feed him too much berries. And yes, in the game you can just feed all these dragons, all these monsters, berries, and they will actually be happy. Believe it or not. Okay. Now let me look at this part here. I also want to make him a bit more skinnier. Now what I'm going to do is actually put some more colors onto him, so he looks more alive. Let me just find the blue. So first I'm finding like the color, then the darkness. Okay, let me just make sure the specular is off. As you can see here, he has no shine. Okay, and now we also need to lower the saturation. Like, you usually do not see high saturations in any game. Better to use like lower saturation for the lighting and stuff. Of course, this ain't the final color, but I really just want to have something similar. Maybe a bit lighter. And now when I look at this, I see it needs more tweaking. As you can see, color actually helped us to see some of the lighting differences, which means the shape is a bit distorted in places. As you can see, this is pretty asymmetrical. What I'm going to do is add a loop cut that goes through the middle part. And this will be the loop cut that will determine where we split the dragon and where we mirror it. So I'm going to delete everything that is on the left side of that loop cut. And I also need to be careful when doing that. This. Now let me add a mirror modifier and make sure it is enabled. So clipping is enabled. I will put it to the top and delete some other parts. Now just make sure all the parts are merging. Okay, this here, delete. For now, I can just fill this in. This I can delete. And then I can just make sure this is connected, fill those in. Deleting the unnecessary stray vertices. Yep, these are the wild ones. Let me just re-enable clipping. I'm just going to extend this. Enable clipping. Like this. Going to fill those in. Also fill those in. As you can see, we can try deleting this part and connecting it once again. It's snapping much more better this time. Make sure this is also snapped. Okay, let me also make sure to disable this so it does not accidentally clip. I'm going to press F to fill this in. This is also another add-on. But once again, it is a Blender default add-on. I want to merge this one, merge this one. Also position these ones. Now I want to also select the belly. Make sure it is clipped. Okay, this vertex is too much. That is how you get rid of the competition. You just delete it. Okay, I want to also merge this. And I'm not going to worry about this part here, since we're actually going to be extending it later. Because as you can see, this white thing actually continues to his head. Connect this, connect this. Okay. Let me also fill this in for now, just because I can. But now, because we just made it here, you can see it's a bit more straight. So what I'm going to do is actually position it a bit more. Select from here to here. And I'm just going to make sure it goes a bit upwards, so we still have that round shape. Also here. Let me just go down here, and I'm going to pull it a bit downwards. Like this. I will also move this. And add another loop cut here just to make the shape a bit better. You can also bring this upwards. And now let us actually continue with the coloring. So now, also let me make sure the roughness is at maximum. Now what I'm going to do is add the same material for the legs here. And then we'll do the same thing for the arms. As you can see, I added a few more material slots. As you can see, arms have more colors than the rest of the body, so they'll have like 4. Let me just like this part. This is going to be this new material, which will actually be a bit of a darker blue shade. Okay, don't worry about the nail. Actually, didn't select the black color, I selected the white color. But let me just make this anyway. Now let me make it darker. Okay, this is a nice shade. Now let me just go to the nail and I'll add another material. And for example, I can make this white. Make sure I'm just assigning it and that I'm using nodes. So let me just turn off specular, turn on roughness. And now let me also assign this color to the nails. We had to get a pretty nice manicure for that. Now we can also do the same thing for the tail, but as you can see, tail has a few more separations. So what I can do first is of course assign the material. Let me show you what I'm going to do on the arms exactly. I want to first make sure it is smoothed as well as everything else. I mean, I can just select it like this, A, shade smooth, okay. Now everything is smooth. Let me show you what I'm going to do by making an example on the arms. So first I want my topology or the lines to be straight. Let me angle them also. Let me just line them up. So I'll look at here. Approximately the same size as the red line, as you can see there. I'm just going to select the faces and separate them. So I can either duplicate and separate them or just separate them. It's up to you. And now I can change the clipping so it does not look like it's intersecting. So the higher the ends, you can see, does this. And if it is still intersecting, it means the part is a bit inverse. So we need to tweak that. So when I make this bigger, it's no longer intersecting. I can also go around and tweak it a bit more. I want it to look like the part of a dragon. And of course, the way they've done it is they've made the retopology of the whole dragon. And of course, the retopology they've done is smooth, so they had the ability to color those parts a bit more easier. But we're just doing the recreation, not a game-ready character, so this is the way I found it. Doing it was the most worth it. So first, what I'm going to do is like this part. I can use the face mode. I'm going to duplicate this, so separate it. And now I can also separate the middle part here. I see this as a part where he can actually move his leg. It's like the rotary point, if that's how you call it. Pretty interesting design. I think it really adds a lot to his character. Okay, now that I have separated it, I will need to actually line it up a bit more. But first, let me separate the part of this one. As you can see, we need to line up the geometry, so I'm just going to S and Z. S, Z, and then I'm pressing 0 to actually null the rotation. Now I see that it is not shown on the screencast keys. So S, let me just make sure everything's selected. S, Z, 0. . pretty magical. And you're probably like, come on, enough with the magic. No, I will not listen to you. Okay. I just wanted to make sure this upper part is lined up. Now I'm just going to select this, duplicate it, separate it. And then I'm just going to make sure I scale into edit mode. Okay, good enough. Now let me do this for the tail and the body. So I'll just duplicate it, separate it. And then let me also assign the white color so I can differentiate it. I'm basically like making a rap song about it. Okay, just make sure this is a bit downwards. Since we do not want his belly sticking out through his belly. Now we can actually make this part also a bit more secure. And do not worry about those separations, we'll fix those later. Just want to first get the colors and shapes in place. Just going around making sure it is not sticking out too much. Of course, we want to also check the face orientation. So if it is red, it means the normals are inverse. I can go A. Let me now just select the head. You see this too much vertices. And I can make sure I recalculate the normals outside. Okay, you can see this is red. Okay, let me also now add this part here. Let me select it, and once again I will duplicate it, separate it, make it bigger, and then color it. Same for this part here. But we need to add another color, so this one will be sort of a black color. And why I say sort of? Because the black color is also rarely used. In these characters, they will rather use like a dark blue color or dark gray color. Let me also pull it a bit outward since it is not visible. Like this. Beautiful. Now we can also tweak the color a bit more. Make it darker. It really does look beautiful. Okay. We also need to color this thing red. Let me also bring this outwards. Okay. Here it is. As you can see, this red is also not as saturated. But I want to make sure I get the red color, not the orange. Okay, okay. That explains it why it was orange. Make this a bit lighter. And then less saturated. Okay, pretty good. Now I want to also make this red. I'm going to add another loop cut. Make it a bigger. So this darker material goes here. Oh yes, I also want to make sure this is also the correct color and shape. So first let me assign it. And also for the feet too, we want this darker blue. I also want to make this a bit more round. Like another loop cuts. And if you do not want the blocky look, we can also add the subdivision modifier. And then you want to make sure that it is still conforming nicely. I can move this a bit backwards. And this is happening because the wheel is not subdivided, so we can do this. Now it looks much better. Also need to color this part red. Another material slot and select this one. Now, okay, you want to select it, assign it. I'm just going to rotate this a bit. I also need to add those white stripes on the tail. I should make the tail a bit longer. Which now means I again have to position this. But as you can see, not in edit, but in object mode. I can actually make it a bit thinner. And I can also do that by using the global axis. Okay, now this one, we need to add a few more loop cuts. Rotate it. I'm going to select this part, once again separate it. I can add another loop cut. And then I'll just position it. Now I also need to bring this part a bit more towards the fin. And here it is now. You will be painted white. Make sure it is selected. And ta-da! And this is how he looks like right now. In the next one, we're actually going to further refine his belly and make some other stuff. I can't wait to see you in the next part. Bye bye!